Welcome to math lesson number 2. This lesson is about rounding off. Many tests will say round off to the nearest hundredth, or round off to the nearest tenth, or round off to the nearest whole number. And when students miss those, it's usually because they don't know which position is hundredths and tenths and ones. So let's take a look at that. You can write down this chart and use it for review. This is the decimal point. The first place to the right of the decimal point is tenths. The second place to the right of the decimal point is hundredths. And the third place is thousandths. Please notice each of these ends in THS because these are decimal fractions, less than one whole thing. Even if they're all nines, 999, that's less than 1. Coming to the left of the decimal point are the ones. Then the tens. Then the hundreds. So let's put numbers up here. This would be read 987 and 654 thousandths. And if the directions tell you round off to the nearest hundredth, on your chart, it's easy to locate this one. And you want to have this memorized because you won't always have a chart with you. You couldn't use it on a test if you did have. So this is the one to which we want to round off if we're told to round off to hundredths. Now, how do we know whether to leave it alone as a 5 or to raise it to a 6? We always look to the digit to the right of the one to which we're going to round off. If it's 5 or more, we raise this by 1. We would change it to a 6. If it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4, we just drop it. We don't need to include it anymore. We just drop that, and rounding off to hundredths, this would be 987 and 65 hundredths. If the directions tell us round off to the nearest tenth, then we know that's this place, the first one to the right of the decimal point. And again, we look to the right. If this is 5 or more, we're going to add 1. It is a 5. Therefore, we're going to raise the 6 to a 7, and we're going to get rid of that 5. And then this answer is 987 and 7 tenths. If the directions say round off to the nearest whole number or to the nearest ones column, then that's this place, of course. Again, we look to the right. It is more than 5, so we raise this one. 988 would be rounding off to the nearest whole number, the nearest ones column. So let's do a couple more for practice. Let's say this one wants us to round off to the nearest hundredth. 1, 2 to the right of the decimal point. So we look to the right. It's not 5 or more, so we just drop it. And that answer is 743 and 25 hundredths. Now, this is something that most people get pretty fast. However, some students find it extremely confusing. So some of the mistakes they make are, first of all, rounding off to the wrong place. And after that, if they're still getting it wrong, they're probably not understanding that now maybe they know they want to round off to this place, but for some reason they're going to change this one instead of this one. So you only change the one to which you are told to round off. So in this case, we just drop that one, and that answer would be 743 and 25 hundredths. In this case, we want to round off to tenths, one place to the right of the decimal point. We look to the right, it is a 5. Therefore, we're going to raise this 2 to a 3 and just drop that. And for our last example, let's say we want to round off to the nearest whole number, the nearest ones column. Again, we look to the right. This is certainly not a 5 or more. So the answer is 84, just like that. And that concludes lesson number 2.